A lot of special effects come into play when filming a movie like Descendants 2. And if you're like us, you want to know what things looked like before and after technology kicked in. Watch until the end for a special sneak peek of Descendants Under the Sea. This bonus entry will blow your mind. First time into things? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up. Now let's find out what the Descendants 2 movie looks like before and after the special effects. Wicked apples. Without special effects, many of our favorite Descendants 2 scenes wouldn't have been possible. With this in mind, we've tracked down some of this film's most epic scenes, and we're going to give you a closer look. The second Descendants movie starts with a bang, and it's all thanks to one of our fave songs, Ways to Be Wicked. The movie begins with Mal, Evie, and Carlos and Jay standing around a smoking cauldron. They're throwing red apples into its bubbling center, and Mal is enchanting the fruit with evil incantations. Thanks to the many special effects in the shot, the scene actually comes off as scary. But this wouldn't have been possible without camera tricks and CGI. While it may appear that the crew is standing under a canopy of gorgeous stars, they're actually acting in front of a green screen. And despite the fact that the cauldron is bubbling with green smolder, our four friends are merely playing with cold water. Without today's technology, this scene wouldn't have been possible. In the end, we're happy it came to life. After all, it is the opening scene of the movie. Talking dog. When you think about it, there'd be nothing better than being able to understand what your furry little friend is feeling. Sadly, animals don't have the same vocal cords as we do. As many of you surely know, no one loves their pup more than Carlos from Descendants. On more than one account, Carlos has voiced his love for Dude the dog. He just never thought he'd voice it back. Well, in Descendants 2, we finally got the chance to see Dude the dog in action. The canine was voiced by actor Bobby Moynihan, who is a proud member of the Saturday Night Live crew. Carlos's dog is granted the ability to speak after eating a magical treat from Mal's purse. Afterward, it's almost as though his lips have a mind of their own.
And while you're at it, scratch my butt.
Well, that's sort of the case when you think about it. After all, CGI experts did alter the dog's lip movements to insert Bobby's voice. It's funny to think that Mal and Carlos had to pretend to talk to a dog for the scene to work out. Regardless, everyone did a mighty fine job. Mal on a motorcycle. Mal might be the daughter of an evil villain, but she isn't as rotten as her reputation makes her out to be. After falling in love with Ben from Ardon Prep, Mal decides to pursue a good girl look, but ends up losing herself in the process. Despite wanting to be a better person, Mal is prone to using magic whenever it serves her, and this doesn't exactly fly with her boyfriend Ben. After finding out that Mal is still using her spellbook, the young couple gets into a fight. The lovers' quarrel causes Mal to want to go back to her roots, so that's exactly what the blonde teenager does. To get back to the Isle of the Lost, Mal gets on the back of her new motorcycle and speeds off across the ocean. But wait, how on earth could she do that? Well, this act is something only a real wizard or a gifted CGI artist could master. While it may look like Mal is doing the impossible, she's just sitting on her bike in front of a green screen. If there's one thing that's for sure, it's that actress Cameron Dove must have laughed after seeing the scene's final product.
Oh, please work.
Magical car ride. There's nothing worse than finding out that someone you care about has run away. With this in mind, it isn't surprising to learn that Evie, Carlos, Jay, and Ben chose to go to the Isle of the Lost to retrieve Mal. Much like Mal, her evil friends had the thought to travel over the ocean using a magic spell. They created an enchanted bridge and then drove it over with their car. Despite wanting to keep a low profile, the friends' means of transportation wasn't exactly the most low-key option. Regardless, they managed to enter their hometown without arising too much suspicion. So by now, you're probably asking yourself, how did they film that bride scene? And the answer is quite simple. They didn't. Instead, Carlos, Evie, Ben, and Jay all got into a car, and the special effects did the rest. Afterward, it was just a matter of getting out of the car to make the scene look believable. The Golden Bridges look was achieved by using computer software, but we have to admit that it tied the scene together beautifully. Boat scene. It takes a lot of work to create a massive set like the one we see in Descendants 2.
Welcome!
But luckily, this production has plenty of talented professionals who dedicate their time to making the sets look believable and gorgeous. Halfway through Descendants 2, we get introduced to Uma and her ship, which is floating in the sea where it should be. However, it isn't exactly how things went down during the filming process. The boat scene was actually filmed indoors. However, it received its outdoor makeover with the help of talented CGI artists. The original set was filled with green screen tarps, which allowed artists to fill in the blanks online. Thanks to these special effects, Uma's ship looks like it's floating in the ocean in front of snowy mountains. Are you shocked to find out that every single Isle of the Lost scene is actually filmed indoors? Because we sure were. But hey, we can't deny that it makes a lot of sense. Colorful slingshots. Mal might have told Ben to leave her alone, but she never stopped loving him. So when Uma kidnapped him, she did everything she could to get him back. The problem was, to get Ben back, Mal had to hand over the fairy godmother's wand to the evil mastermind. So naturally, she chose to create a fake replica of the wand and traded it for her boyfriend's life. Uma, who stayed true to her word, handed Ben back to his friends once the wand was in her hand. Sadly, she soon realized that Mal had tricked her. To escape a vicious fight, Mal and her friends quickly began to retreat, and luckily Carlos was by their side and ready for action. Cruella's son took out his slingshot and started throwing poofs of color into the boat. This stopped the villains from being able to see, allowing the team to run away. While the bursts of color seemed all too real, they're the opposite of that. Instead, Uma's crew had to pretend to be burdened by the smoke, and the rest was left to special effects. So not only did Carlos pretend to shoot the pirates with his slingshot, but the pirates also pretended to be affected by his actions. If this surprises you, wait until you see the bonus entry at the end of this video. Uma's Transformation. The cotillion was supposed to be a fun and memorable event. However, the only person who seemed to be having a good time was Uma. After using her powers to control Ben, Uma attended the dance with him to make Mal angry. Unfortunately for Uma, Mal quickly realized that Ben wasn't himself, and she kissed him to get rid of the spell. After it became clear that Uma was up to no good, she climbed the ship's edge and jumped into the ocean.
No! Uma!
But, being Ursula's daughter and all, she transformed into a sea witch instead of paddling around as a human would. To achieve this scene, Uma was made to jump into a pool of water surrounded by green screens. This gave the production more than enough footage to alter. After the night sky was added to the shot, Uma's legs were transformed into tentacles. All in all, Uma's transformation was beyond shocking. But we'd be lying if we said we didn't love it. Mal's transformation. Being the daughter of Maleficent can give you a lot of special perks. However, having this enchantress as a mother does have a handful of downfalls as well. If there's one thing we all know about Mal, is that she isn't one to back down from a fight. So when Uma transformed her into her true self, Mal decided to do the same. The young villain's eyes began to turn green before a cloud of purple smoke started to wrap around her body. Despite knowing what was coming, Ben seemed totally shocked about the fact that Mal was turning into a big purple dragon. As soon as she emerged, Mal flew into the sky and began attacking Uma with fire. This is around the time that Ben jumped into the water to separate the two women. To master this scene, the Descendants 2 crew were made to look up to the ceiling with terrified looks on their face. By following a mark, the cast made way for the perfect template for CGI artists to follow. The scene ended with Ben jumping into the pool with Uma and pretending that Mal was flying above them. Once again, this scene wouldn't have been possible without the use of green screens and computer screens. The fight. It goes without saying that fighting is never the answer. With this in mind, Ben jumped into the ocean to stop his girlfriends from killing her enemy. Despite being a powerful sea witch, Uma is no match for a fiery dragon. While it's pretty obvious that these two villains don't like each other, Mal could get expelled for her crimes and end up losing everything she's worked so hard to gain. A lot of CGI was needed to achieve this scene. After all, the Descendants 2 crew was simply standing on the set of a boat and pretending that magical beings were fighting around them. In the end, artists had to capture the night sky, Mal's flames, and Uma's tentacles all in one, which was no easy feat. But once again, these graphics were strewn together so perfectly that the scene appears to be unfolding before our eyes. Uma's promise. Just when we thought that Uma would leave our favorite villains alone, we found out that she has other plans in mind. After escaping her death, Uma returns to the Isle of the Lost, but instead of being defeated, Ursula's daughter has a strange smile on her face. In this scene, we see Uma swimming through the ocean. Her large tentacles are still attached to her her body, proving that she has little interest in returning to her human state. Right before reaching dry land, Uma turns around to face the camera and tells us that her story is not over. This terrifying scene might look super real, but once again, it's nothing more than actress China Anne McClain swimming in a pool. Directors and producers were impressed by how quickly China nailed her role. The young actress was amongst hundreds who auditioned for it, but after her audition, it became painfully evident that she was the only one for the job. Now here's the moment you've all been waiting for, the Under the Sea bonus entry. Bonus entry, Stronger. As many of you already know, Descendants 3 will be coming out on the Disney Channel in 2019. To tide us over until then, though, Disney released an Under the Sea short film in September of 2018, and it's amazing. One of the most memorable scenes is definitely the Stronger music video, which is jam-packed with awesome dance moves and special effects. Since this song is mostly filmed underwater, both Uma and Mal had to film their scenes in a huge pool. On top of all that, Mal had to pretend to see Uma's face everywhere she looked. This is due to Uma having a handful of new powers that only manifest themselves while under the sea. Once outside of the pool, Uma still had to get her feet wet. The crew built a dance thrift that was only 20 feet by 20 feet. They filled it with water and made the dancers kick and splash around. Filming this short film was not an easy thing to do, especially since it was mainly filmed in a pool. With the help of green screens and computer-generated imagery, the Descendants cast was able to capture their vision. So, were you a fan of the short film? If so, tell us what your favorite part was in the comments. And that's a wrap. Thanks for watching and see you next time on The Things.